minutes to join, and we happen to both get the memo to wear blue. So that
we got the text.
Yeah.
We coordinated our fashion.
I know. So let me see. Okay. Hey, Brenda. Hey, Shani. Okay, so I got a couple people on. I'm gonna give everybody a couple more minutes and turn the volume of my phone down when I actually read the comments. Okay, good.
Technology is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Isn't it? And I like these Facebook broadcasts because they allow you to you can keep it up there for a while. People can go back and see the content, and it just really is good for people to kind of just know all the stuff that's available to them in real estate. I don't want anybody to miss the introduction. Hey, Rebecca. Brokers from Gainesville joining, so that's a plus.
We've got an office in Gainesville now.
You do?
We do. We just started Gator Title as a title agency in Gainesville. We have a partner up there who owns a big real estate company. And we just started in business in August.
Okay, August. So what about Jacksonville too?
Jacksonville, we conserve. I don't have a physical brick and mortar shop there, but we have a partner, a sister company, who closes courtesy closings for us up in Jacksonville.
Okay, good.
So that's kind of, we'll get into what the network now consists of. We got a lot of sister companies across the state to be able to kind of service everywhere.
Awesome. Okay, okay, there it goes. Thank you guys for sharing. Okay, let's see. I'll invite some people. Okay. So I asked you here today because I really, I heard your story. Mm-hmm. So when you came to our office and you talked to us about investing in real estate and how you got started, I was pretty impressed by that.
Thank you.
I was impressed that you were able to develop the portfolio of companies and the network and the expansiveness, not just in real estate as an investor, but overall the entire industry. And I just want to allow you some time to introduce yourself, talk about who you are, what you do now, and this conglomerate of businesses that you have. I like to hear all of your businesses, all the pieces to your puzzle.
Yeah, it's a complex puzzle. It's evolved quite a bit.
Okay.
So the simple start is my mom started Hillsborough Title back in 1984. We were just one little title office here in Plant City, Florida, itty bitty Plant City. Had one office, and maybe in its heyday doing maybe 60, 70 closings a month, and maybe a staff of about 10. I grew up in the industry. My mom started the company. She had just divorced my dad back in 1984. So I was 9, my brother was 6, and my mom started the title company. And back then, you just take whatever scraps you can get, and you're doing night closings and weekend closings, and just taking what you can get. So I literally grew up in a title agency, picking staples out of floors and refilling the paperclip jars and filing files away.
Okay.
So that was kind of my humble beginnings in real estate at 9 years old. Grew up in the business, 16 years old. I was the company courier. I was doing file work, post-closing, kind of all the behind-the-scenes stuff of title when I was 16 to 18 years old. And then grew up in it, processing, closing, etc. So I grew up in a title agency in a small business, and I was surrounded by real estate my whole life. I'm always around the transactions. So I would meet my clients and meet my buyers and my sellers and my agents, and really kind of get to know real estate from the inside out.
Okay.
And got connected with investors, and got connected with with agents and commercial transactions. So
because you met them during the process,
I meet them, and you really from a title agent, from a closer's perspective, you're working in that file, and you become a part of that transaction.
Right.
So when you kind of look at it a little bit beyond just that transaction and go, wow, this is kind of cool. I'm a part of this whole piece of the puzzle, and let me get to know what these agents do, and let me get to know what these investors do. What do they look for? And it became an interest of mine.
Okay.
So at 19 years old, I bought my first house. So I came across a person who was selling a house This is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath frame home in Plant City, 1,000 square foot. They wanted to sell it for $32,000 back in 1992. I don't know, somewhere in this. Maybe about 94.
Okay.
So I think it was 94. I put $4,000 down, and they were willing to owner finance it at 10% interest. So held a note of $28,000 at 10%. My payments were $300 a month for the principal and interest on it. And I had 2 buddies, and I said, all right, well, my buddy James says, well, I'll rent one of the bedrooms for $200 a month. And my buddy Scott says, well, I'll take the other bedroom. I'm like, no, that's my bedroom. He goes, well, I'll take the couch for $150. So I rented a bedroom for $200 and then a couch for $150.
And the mortgage was $300.
$300. So I was cash flowing $50 a month, but besides utilities. But
Right.
but I was basically cash flowing $50 a month at 19 years old.
Okay.
And held on to the house for 2 years. And you get past that capital gains mark. You got to own it for 2 years if it's your primary residence.
Okay.
So once you sell it, then you don't have to pay taxes on it.
Right.
So I bought it for 32. I sold it for 45.
So you made 13,000.
Made 13,000. And actually that was for me, that was the catalyst for me to be able to go to college. I came from my family, we were simple people, country folks, moved down from Georgia, settled in Antioch, Florida. And I was actually the first one of my entire lineage to ever go to college. So my goal was to go to the University of Florida without having a job, just so I can party and have a good time. Right. So, but I sold and I didn't have any scholarships. I mean, I was gifted in high school, but I wasn't a good student. So I was like a 3.6 GPA weighted, which means I was about a 2.6. Right. Mom was real proud, and but got through and used that profit, that $13,000 plus the $4,000 I put down. So I had about 17 grand that I went to school with. And so I paid basically I went to HCC, for a period of time while I was here, and then went to UF and
you paid for it yourself.
Paid for it myself, and I'd come back home during the summers. And so what my mom was doing, now the title company had been going for a while, and she got into real estate and buying and flipping on the side. And me and my grandpa would, on the summer times in college, I would come back and me and my grandpa would be swinging a hammer and doing rehab work on investment homes for my mom. Okay. So doing framing, drywall, painting, light electrical, plumbing. I mean,
you were never trained in that?
Never. My dad's an electrician, and my grandpa was a general handy. So he was a maintenance man and knew, he knew a little bit about everything. Okay. So he taught me a lot, and enough to get by. So I did that for my mom until I graduated college. Went to go work in another field. I was a stockbroker for a couple of years back in 99 to 2001. And then I came back into the title late 2001. And it was just a couple of years after that where I said, you know what, I really like the investing side too. So my brother started buying and flipping houses. Okay. So this is about 02, 03. We're buying a little house, little. So
how did you get started in that investment portion of it? Where did the capital come from? And what was the first, second, and third transaction like? Because there are a lot of people that own homes and they want to get started investing in real estate. And now the market is kind of, the homes are not like they were now, and you talked about this at the training that you did, when the homes go for foreclosure, auction, etc. The investors that have crazy money are picking them up before you could even blink. They're outbidding everybody and snatching up everything. So how did you get started with that first investment?
I built my first house. Again, I was just always embedded in real estate. And so back in 2002, I just moved back to Plant City, and I'm working in the title company, and I'm like, I'm going to build a house. My buddy's a builder. Construction back then was like, you could build a house for like $60 a square foot. So I bought a lot in the city.
And you built it?
For $20,000. And then we built a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800 square foot home for, $60 a square. So I'm into my first home for about 100 grand, new construction. Well, then the market takes off from 02 to 04. Next thing you know, my house goes from being worth like 120 to 250.
Wow.
I pull an equity line against my house. So now I've got a $100,000 equity line is what I started investing in real estate with.
Wow.
And my brother was doing the same thing. He had some other stuff going off. So we started off, together, saying, hey, let's just go in 50-50 on these homes. And so we would buy one. And I remember, we'd find deals, like back, and it's happening again now.
Yes,
back in the day, we would buy contracts. So there's guys that'll just go out there and, sniff the dirt and find the deals, and they'll get a deal under contract, and then we just buy the contract. They'd assign it to us. So I bought there was a 3-1 block. Guy got it under contract for like 50 grand. I paid him $5,000 for the paper. He assigned it to me, so he gets a $5,000 finder's fee. He's out the door. He's happy he made money. I buy a block home, that I get for 55 grand, and then put $20,000 of rehab into it, and then next thing you know, you list it for $119,900, and you walk away with a $40,000 profit.
So the the company that you bought the contract to, they lost money. They didn't assume the risk. That's the thing is you could just take little hits. If all I got to do is go out and find the deal, get it under contract, sell the contract, and make $5 grand without any risk, and I don't have to put up the capital, I don't have to put up the the money to buy the home, I don't have to fix the home, I don't have to have the risk of trying to sell the home and maybe the market goes down, what have you. So it's not a bad deal. These contract assigner guys, and they're out there again. There's just especially now.
Oh yeah, out there now. So their wholesale list all over the place, and all those signs that you see on the side of the road, the little bandit side, the bandit signs. We buy houses. They're just that's ground floor. That's how they're generating the leads and whatnot. But then they'll come to guys like me in the past, or I'll buy the paper, or buy the home, or take an assignment or what have you. But my thing was always I was the end guy. I was selling retail. Because you're going to maximize your profits
at the retail point.
Absolutely. If I put the sweat into that home and do the cabinets and the countertops and finish it all nicely, and then sell that, list it with an agent and sell it to a first-time home buyer, that's where you're going to maximize your gain at. But that's also probably the biggest risk.
The biggest risk. Yep. I was going to say, in any of this point in this process, when you were buying these houses and putting the work into it, the cabinets, the floors, etc., for a time where you didn't have the capital, where you had to take out loans or lines of credit or equity or things like that, and how did that turn out?
Absolutely. I mean, so at first, no one's going to give you money, right? You got to have collateral. So that was my skin in the game, is that collateral, and then all of a sudden, I would have a house, flip it, make that money, buy the next house, and now I'm starting to play with cash. I'm not using the lines of credit that I had. So next thing you know, you're buying one at a time. Then you're buying two at a time. Next thing you know, you're buying three at a time. You've got a crew now. When I first started, I was doing most of the work. My brother out there, besides the stuff we couldn't do. I'm not a cabinet man. I'm not a granite man, but I can swing a hammer. I can demo. I can paint. I can do light electrical and plumbing. So I would sub out what I couldn't do. And then bring in a crew. Now I could just kind of sit back and just be the finder and be the seller and be the visionary, so to speak.
Okay.
So that's what I did until a point when I started buying and holding, and said, all right, you know what? True wealth has always been once you hold it. Right.
Because then you can decide when you're going to put it in.
Yeah. So now you all of a sudden you're sitting on 10, 20 rentals.
Okay.
And maybe half of them are free and clear and half of them are leveraged. And then now I've got collateral, so now banks will talk to me. So now I say, all right, I got 10 free and half, now 5, 10 free and clear houses, and bank will give me, 70 cents, 70% LTV, 60% LTV. Back in the day, 110% LTV.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, then have a $500,000 or $1 million credit line to go out and buy
and really do some stuff.
Okay. And that's not everyone does that. Some people might get that first little bit from maybe there's a rich family member, maybe there's grandma flipped some loan, or maybe an investor. Hey, I'm an investor. I want a 10% return on my money. So I'll loan you. You go sniff out that deal. I'll loan you the money to buy it, and then rehab and sell and move on.
So how like the reason why I wanted to do this video, because a lot of people think I have to have $100,000 liquid cash to get started buying investment properties. What is the the least, you may not be able to say the least amount, but if somebody had $10,000, could they get started doing something and being an investor? Because you talked about that when you were talking about the auction. A lot of people don't know that where you live at, the city actually auctions property a lot of time for taxes. And when you assume the tax, or when you pick up the property for the taxes, the mortgage cancels?
Yes. And so first part of that question, remember I started this game at $4,000.
True.
So I had $4,000, and that's how I bought my first house.
Okay.
So $4,000 was 10% or whatever that was, 10% down.
Okay.
So the money it differs. It depends on the deal that you find.
Okay.
But yes, as we were discussing in the class, lots of different ways to buy homes. You get a tax deed sale. You can go onto a county website, and then it's usually once a month or twice a month. There's properties being auctioned off for tax deeds. It was very lucrative back in 08, 9, and 10 when all the chaos was occurring. Little less out there now inventory wise, because it's such a hot market. Everything on the MLS sells. Anything listed sells, and then they go to the auction, and it's all it's depleted a lot. And that was all that foreclosure inventory and all that REO and all that the hedge fund run, 2011 to 2014. I mean, it cleaned it all out, but there's still deals out there. We were discussing like the HOA liens,
right?
Some really, you gotta determine your risk. You kind of weight what is my risk reward factor here. Am I my 1 to a 10 being, I'm going to invest in, Bitcoin and junk bonds and crazy. 1 being, I'm just going to buy a CD at a bank.
Right.
So I look at that risk scale, 1 to 10, and somewhere along there, I'd say like down here is that contract. The guy that got it under contract and sold it to me for $5,000. That's down here on the risk. That's down on a 1, 2, or 3. Okay. I'm that middle guy.
That's where you are now.
I'm that middle guy. Yeah. The low risk, it just doesn't have enough return. Right. But I like that 5 to 10, 12% returns, and then you got the high risk stuff, which is the 25% returns or better. Right. But there's the risk is greater. The risk is greater. I mean, it's like the Bitcoin conversations going on right now. Bitcoin it's crazy. It went up $1,000 overnight. You buy Bitcoin right now for $10,000, and it was only $5,000 like 3 months ago. But it can go away tomorrow. Who knows? But the way it's just skyrocketing, it's like, wow, people are making a lot of money doing that right now. So same with these HOA liens. You can take the risk of buying a home at auction for $10,000. Maybe a $300,000 home for $10,000 or $15,000. What you're doing is buying the homeowners association lien. Okay. And the lien, the HOA has the right to foreclose their lien position, and when they foreclose it, it goes to the auction. Right. So an investor walks in and goes, wow, I can buy this home for $15,000 and technically own it, but it's subject to the mortgages that are in place. So you might buy a $300,000 home for $15,000, but you just inherited a $400,000 mortgage.
And that's where you come in with the title search.
That's what we do behind the scenes. That's kind of all the other stuff that we do. That's how I besides investing, I took the title company and grew it to the next level. So that's where I created all the ancillary stuff that we do.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the title search of it. So you you buy this property for $15,000 for HOA foreclosure. And now you inherit this $400,000.
Yeah, let's just talk about that briefly, that process. So I buy a house today and I get a mortgage. So I get a $200,000. I buy a house for $200,000 and I got a $180,000 mortgage with Bank of America, and I put $20,000 down. Okay, so I buy it today. Lose my job, something goes wrong. And I stop making my mortgage payments, and the bank has right to foreclose. Well, let's say I live in a subdivision as well. I have a homeowners association. and let's say I stop paying that homeowners association, the HOA can also foreclose their position, just the way the rules are written in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So that HOA has the right to foreclose.
Mm-hmm.
The bank has a right to foreclose. And then there's also taxes. So
Right.
if you're not paying your property taxes, they have the right to foreclose, and that's the tax deed auction.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 different things going on with this piece of property. And so if you were to, let's just say that the HOA foreclosed its position, and all of a sudden they're trying to just, you didn't pay your HOA dues of $200 a month for a couple of years. Next thing you know, you owe the HOA, $10,000. They can foreclose because they want to get paid. They need that money to pay the bills. They got to take care of the subdivision and the lawns and ponds and everything else. So you can buy that position,
Mm-hmm.
but that first mortgage is still out there, $200,000.
Right.
So that's a very high risk play, because the people that buy those are typically they're associated with law firms, and they
get out of that
stall that mortgage. They can't always get out of it, but they can stall the foreclosure on it. But let's just say, here's what happens in the real world. Let's say I buy that position for $10,000,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say I can rent that house for $2,000 a month.
Right.
And let's say I can stall that foreclosure from occurring for 3 years.
Right.
$2,000 a month times 36 months equals X. So what, $70,000, whatever that.
$70,000.
$70,000. I bought the position for 10.
I made $60,000. Now you can go ahead and foreclose.
So, hey, take all you want. That's right. So I'll foreclose me out, or I'll do a quick clean deed. I'll walk away. Now it's not that simple. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of law proposals. Some changes that are out there, always looming. But there literally is a company in the Tampa Bay area that owns thousands of HOA positions.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's high risk. That's Bitcoin. Yeah.
Right.
Because, all it takes is what happens if there's a legislation change, and boom, they change the laws and says this is no longer legal. And all of a sudden they have, the thousands of homes that they technically are the fee simple title owner to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Problem.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about if a person wants to take that position and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to buy the HOA lien, how do they know what else is going on with that property? Because that's where your company's come in. So I want to talk about that piece, but then I want to get into everything that you do. Yeah,
the rest of the stuff, right? So what I say to everyone who's investing, anything that you're trying to buy, you have to do your due diligence.
Yes.
In title, that due diligence is a title search.
Right.
You've got to know the facts on a piece of property. So if you find, whether it's an MLS deal,
mm-hmm.
whether it's a probate, foreclosure, auction, HOA, whatever it is. Let's just start with the basics, and that's running a title search.
Right.
I need to know the facts that are on this property. And I tell people this with HOA, with HOA or foreclosures in general,
mm-hmm.
if they're not paying their mortgage, they're usually not paying something else too. And so every foreclosure, it's like, all right, there's an HOA lien, there's the mortgage, the first mortgage being foreclosed out, there's usually a second mortgage being foreclosed out, and there's usually like a Visa card, or they haven't made their card payment. So you got certified, liens that are against the property, you got all this stuff, and then God forbid they're not paying their taxes. So Uncle Sam, next thing you know, they got an IRS tax lien. So you got all this risk. When there's a foreclosure, you got all this risk because there's all these other bills, people lining up saying, well, he owes me money, he owes me money. So you've got to do a title search just to see what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it starts with. Title search, it's called an ownership and encumbrance report.
Okay.
And they're, typically from, the prices range, I think ours are $150
okay.
On a onesie twosie. And then like with everything, it's volume based. So,
okay.
If you're a hedge fund, private equity company buying thousands a month from me, yeah, I'll work you a deal. If you're a onesie twosie, it's $150.
Okay.
But that's where it kind of begins. So in Florida's a mess. Yeah, we all know Florida's a mess. If you were doing this in California, you literally just go online and do your own title search, and boom, there you go. And it's
that was my next question.
Florida, the laws are different. So here's the thing in California, just and this varies state to state.
Mm-hmm.
If the laws are written in California so that if let's say that you owe me money and I'm going to file a lien against you, it's on me to file the lien the right way. I need to reference your name, your address, your social, the correct legal description to the property, and there's pieces that I have to do it right. In Florida, a lien can attach by name alone, and the name doesn't even have to be spelled right.
Okay. So
that's why I say, I make a joke when I do my classes. I'm like, title searches take a little bit of time to do. We have to do them accurately. These are examiners, high paid legal professionals that examine title to make sure that that every variation of a name is checked off. Because in Hillsborough County, God forbid you bring me a property that's owned by Robert Smith.
Right.
I got to search Robert Smith, Robbie Smith, Bob Smith, B Smith, Bobby, Robbie, every variation of the name. Because again, a judgment can attach. R. Smith, the judgment can attach. If someone, and it's based on the state laws. I wish they would change them. It's ridiculous. So you bring me a deal in Miami and the property owner is Juan Gonzalez, it's going to take me a week to do that title search because I'm going to have 1,000 judgments of Juan Gonzalez and Jay Gonzalez and Juan J-U-A, J-W, all these different variations. It's just, it is what it is.
So what happens, and situations like this have happened. What happens if a person buys that, they get a title search, not from your company, of course, but they get a title search and the title comes back clear, but then it turns out that there was a misspelling in Florida. So there was a Juan, J-U-A-N, but they spelled Juan, J-U-J-A-N.
You have, so on just a search alone, just the search alone, it's called an ownership and encumbrance report, and it's a non-insurable product.
Okay.
It's just
search.
There's no liability behind it. So let's say you assume the liability. Matter of fact, it's the liability is what you paid for the product, for the insurance. That's an O&E. Title insurance is different. Okay. So what my suggestion is, I'm an insurance I'm an insurance salesman, right? That's what we do for a living.
Right.
But after you acquire, if I give you a search and you buy a property with that search from an auction, I would immediately go back and buy the title policy, because now let's say it's let's say you buy a property for $100,000. Okay, $100,000 title policy is $575.
Right.
$575, and now if there's something wrong, someone comes forward, hey, I misspelled the name, all this other stuff, you got coverage. Okay. You got my insurance backing you for $100,000.
Right. Okay. And so let's talk about your companies. What do you do? Tell me about we're in an office part and he's out the door and he's like, well, that's my company there. That's my company there. That's my company here. Over there is my company. Over there is my company. All these buildings. Who is here?
Who am I?
What do you do?
Okay. Yeah. I almost have to think about that one daily. Who am I? All right. So I'm a title guy.
Okay.
Who, more than anything else, just call it luck, call it blessed or divine intervention, but maybe it's just being in the right place at the right time. I started expanding my company. I took over operations of the title agency back in 2000, about 3 or 4. And by 2008, I bought my mom out. So I actually bought 100%.
So you own Hillsborough Title?
I own Hillsborough Title.
How many title companies do you have? How many offices in Hillsborough Title?
Well, that's where it gets confusing, right? Okay. So from 2008, we had 2 offices, one in Plant City and one in Brandon. And I had about, 6 employees here and 4 employees in Brandon. So a total of, 10 employees, and we were doing probably 50, 60 closings a month. And then the crash happened.
Okay.
And then it wiped out everybody. Literally, like all the big Wall Street players, you know, the Fidelity Nationals and the First Americans and Stewart. I mean, all these big players went under, and a lot of big agents went under. And I didn't have any debt to the company, so we just got really lean. And I lost a lot of money for a long period of time. Kept bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, and I kept cutting and cutting and cutting, just trying to get to zero. But I knew if I could just last, like, recessions don't last forever.
Ever.
So, normal recession is 2 to 3 quarters max, so 6 to 9 months. However, this was a deep, dark recession. It lasted for years. What happened is for me, I started, all I am is a really good seeker of talent. I'm a good recruiter, and I find people who are awesome. I find, people who love what they do. And so I just surrounded myself with talent. And so next thing you know, I find this office just shut down and they laid off their staff, and this closer here had, some closings that followed her. And so I pieced together offices. So next thing you know, I put an office in South Tampa. Next thing you know, I put an office in Wesley Chapel. And, by I'd say about 2010, 2011, I had about 5 offices, maybe 30 staff. 2011, I think it was, when I went to college, I had some friends, got some buddies up there. And as it turned out, 2 of my buddies ended up working at hedge funds. One ended up working at Blackstone, and one ended up at Colony. 2 of the biggest private equity firms out there. And so next thing you know, 2011, 2012 came, and we were very well versed in what we did from an investor standpoint. I had someone call me and go, "Hey, can you get me like 50 of those O&E reports by tomorrow morning?" I'm like, "Okay, sure, I'll figure it out." Boom, 50 reports overnight. And they're like, "You're like the only guy in Florida that can do that. Like, everyone else said that we couldn't do it." I'm like, "Well, you said you needed it, so I'm here for you."
Right.
And so next thing you know, I didn't realize, but that was kind of the beginning of a big relationship with one of the big hedge funds. That was American Homes for Rent. And next thing you know, we're doing 4,000 or 5,000 title searches a month.
Wow.
And we're buying hundreds of homes a month with these guys. And then word spreads like wildfire. Then Blackstone's knocking, "Hey, we need you to do that for us." And Colony and all these other guys start saying, "Hey, this is like the go-to title company. They run auction. This is what we do." So, with Colony Capital back in early 2012, I think it was over a 5-month period, we bought 2,400 homes with Colony, handled all those closings and all those title insurance policies and all that back end work. So that really put us out there in a big way. And at the same time, I'm still growing my traditional title agencies.
Right.
And we started doing what's called affiliated businesses, where big real estate companies say, "Hey, I've got hundreds of agents and I want to own my own title company." And I'm like, "Great, I know how to run title companies. That's what I'm really good at." So our network, our Florida Agency Network,
yes,
is a conglomerate of different title agencies. So we have several different names and entities throughout Florida now.
Yes.
That are either independent or ones that I have acquired. So I started buying title companies back in 2013 and 14, or it's title companies that we run for other people.
Okay.
So what we have, joint venture partners with a lot of the big brokerages throughout the state.
Wow.
So that's kind of like the conglomerate. That's why you see all these names. If you go to the flagency.net website, you see all those names on there. Those are a lot of the entities that either I own wholly or in part or operate.
Okay.
But in order to do that, I had to develop my back office. And so the back office is what we do is our accounting division. So that's BPM Solutions.
And those are companies that you own whole?
Those are companies I own and hold.
Okay.
BPM Solutions are our accounting division, our wiring department. That's our CFO, our controller, accounts payable. We got accounting clerks and HR people and all that stuff. Total now I have about 170 employees. We have 6 attorneys on staff. We have, I spun off an IT company, so Premier Data Services is our IT division. There's 12 IT professionals that work there. So we're hiring network security people, cybersecurity specialists, chief information security officers.
To ensure that these transactions flow smoothly.
Are safe. That's right. So that's the thing, is right now it's every transaction, someone's getting hacked.
Yeah.
Someone's trying to, trick you to send wires to the wrong people. So we developed a company that we offer. Not only do we service our client base, but we service other people. We service stock brokerages, law firms, a school, a plumbing outfit, electrical company. We've got a lot of outside clients in the IT space, and we also offer cybersecurity consulting to companies to say, hey, I'm really scared. I'm a general contractor and I have a lot of socials. I got all these subcontractors and I got their social security numbers in my system. How do I protect them?
Right.
Or I'm a real estate agent and I've got all these transactions. I got driver's license on my laptop. What do I do to secure this?
Right.
So those are the types of things that we do. And then we also have Hometown Title Network, and then another company called Network Transaction Solutions. So Hometown Title Network is our title plant, our municipal lien search company, our HOA processing division, and a lot of centralized services unique to title.
Okay.
And then Network Transaction Solutions is a national signing company. So if you've got a closing and your buyer's in Alaska, in the past, we should just like FedEx them the package and let them go find a local notary to use. You can't do that anymore because it's just it's open to too much fraud.
Right.
So we have a network of nationwide notaries that are all very well versed in closing and can explain a closing package very well, and are all licensed, bonded, and insured, and go out. So if I have a closing in Anchorage, Alaska, I have a person go meet that buyer there and do that signing, and then safely, ship that package back, upload a secure network, the whole nine.
Okay, awesome. And the reason why I think it's good to really talk about all this is because when people think real estate, they think I've got to buy and sell property. I've got to do this. But you have managed to develop a network of companies around not just a real estate deal, because those are all back end parts of the real estate deal, but also have the investment piece as well. Yeah,
I would never have thought that I would be putting out resume searches for IT personnel,
right.
or for a full-time property manager. Right. I literally have, with what we all have going on, whether it be stuff that, our network, we also, you asked us earlier, we have 22 title offices throughout the state that are owned. And then I have another, 30 title offices throughout the state that are sister companies.
Okay.
So, but every single one of those properties, you got toilets that overflow, you got air conditioning.
Right.
So there's property management in what we do. There's IT in what we do. There's CFO, accounting divisions, and then closing personnel and title personnel. And what's really great is because we have all these different things, a lot of this is like entry level too.
Right.
So we hire entry level people and train them in a trade of real estate transactions. And then whether you end up being in a title office or end up being in accounting or wherever, this is what we do.
And all this started from a 19-year-old kid that bought his first home at $4,000.
It started from my mama did it. So
yeah.
Give credit to my mom.
Yeah,
but I just took her ball and ran.
Well, that's really awesome, because I think a lot of people don't realize that you said you started filling staplers, and then you were a courier, and then you learned the business.
Yeah.
So you had, your mom, but you had to also be willing to learn from her. You had to also be willing to basically sit with her and let her teach you the business, right?
Yeah.
So what did those days look like for you as a kid? Like, how did she teach you the business?
Oh, there's two people that were very influential in that. My mom is one of the. My mom, to this day, the industry looks at her as one of the the top title person in the industry. Lawyers. I got 6 attorneys on staff. My mom is not an attorney, and all 6 of them say your mama is the best attorney we got because she knows title so well. So she knows title. And then I have another person who works with us now, Sean, who was actually my mom's first closer like years and years ago, who's still on staff, and she taught me closing. And so I was 19, 20 years old, like walking into a closing with buyers and sellers, and explaining documents that I didn't even know what they were. So I was so nervous, like, oh my gosh, and God forbid there'd be a realtor asking a question. Well, what about the truth in lending statement? I'm like, oh, sir, I don't really know. Go ask my mom, you know. But Sean really got me through all of the training on how to explain documents and take the time to read read all the documents. So now it's just, truth in lending. This is, I could explain everything in there. So she gave me the confidence and the closing knowledge.
Okay.
So yeah, both of those, but it's just a trade,
Yeah.
You don't go to college for this. You do get a title license, to be a licensed title agent.
Right.
But most of it is working in an agency, in and around transactions.
Yeah. Now, see, where I'm from, the lawyers do the closings. So, like in Connecticut, title companies don't do closings as they do them here. What about notaries doing closings in Florida? And do you have notaries do closings?
But yes. Okay. So all of our closers are notaries, and we're unique in that all of our closers are also licensed title agents. The state only requires that you have one licensed title agent on staff for an entire office.
And everybody else can just be a closer.
Everyone, yeah, that's right. So we've been doing this for several years. An initiative is provide professionalism to our industry and make sure that all the closers that are handling your transactions are licensed. In other states, New York, Connecticut, several other states, I think Georgia, those are attorney-only states. So there's actually 37 states who a title company or an attorney can handle the transaction, and there's 13 states that only the attorney can do it. Florida is both, either one. So that's why we have the 6 attorneys on staff, you can have your cake and eat it too. And so in Florida, especially if it's a beach property or it's $1 million commercial deal, or if it's Miami-Dade, Broward, and Sarasota counties, those are typically attorneys handle those. So we go, great. Here's the attorneys. We can handle that for you.
Right.
You can have the speed and the processes of a title company. And then the law, the law experience of an attorney. So that's what we built.
Now, did you foresee this?
Heck no.
20 years ago, did you foresee owning all these companies and doing all this stuff?
I really just wanted to have about 5 or 6 title agencies in Hillsborough County and leave it as Hillsborough Title. But what happened, as like I said before, is once you surround yourself with talent. And that's whatever the industry is, whether it be title or electrician, whatever. Don't be afraid to hire someone who is smarter than you, with more talent, and pay them well, compensate them. Matter of fact, in the beginning stages, make yourself cringe, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to pay this person this much money, but it will set fire to you to go out and make more money. That's right. So that's what I was able to do, is just find talent. And now I have a 12-man leadership team. My org chart, 170 staff, but there's 12 at the top, and they're phenomenal. And they all literally own their sector of the business and run with it and operate it like it's theirs. And so now I just get to, provide input and provide the vision of what we want to accomplish as a team.
That's awesome. So let me see. Linnell said, this is super useful. Thanks for sharing.
Oh, great.
And I think it's an inspiration too, to a lot of people that are looking to get, I have a lot of people here that are buyers that are like, I never thought about getting into another side of real estate, because most people think the only thing you can do in real estate is buy and sell property. There's so much more.
Yeah. There's so many aspects, that you can, think about a real estate transaction. There's a buyer, there's a seller, there's a title company, there's agents, there's realtors, there's lenders, there's banks, there's construction, there's rehab, there's accounting, there's IT, there's all this stuff. And Florida, especially, Florida runs on real estate.
Florida runs on real estate.
Literally runs on real estate. It's what this state was built on. This is the Sunshine State. Everyone wants to be here. Everyone wants to live here, and they want to buy property here. And they're retiring like crazy from up north and moving down here. So yeah, there's so many different directions that you can take in real estate. All you got to do is just sit with us and ask. And we'll happy to share it.
Okay, so we're about finished, but I want to just ask you a couple more questions. You mentioned working with hedge fund companies and investors and things of that nature. Do you still invest in actual property side of it?
I do from time to time.
Okay.
I've been. I don't do as much on the residential side anymore.
More commercial.
I'm more commercial now.
Okay.
2 years ago, I actually bought the commercial park that we're in. So as my businesses grew, next thing you know, I looked around and go, man, I occupy like half this park. So I bought the park a couple of years ago, and so
nothing wrong with that.
and now I'm a landlord by accident, I guess. So we own 40,000 square foot of commercial here in Plant City, and I've got plans to put up another building. So there's another 7,000 square foot unit coming. And I do like to still like keep my my eye kind of on the prize and keep my nose to the ground, sniffing out deals and stuff like that. But I've really, I like my businesses, so I really invest in what I have control in.
Right. Makes sense.
And I survived 08. It wasn't pretty. I had about 10 rentals that I owned, going into 2008 during the crash. And next thing you know, all your renters are dropping out from under you. And I had, crew, I was buying houses a little bit too aggressively, and next thing you know, you're stuck, holding a bunch of houses that you didn't intend to keep, so yeah, so there's always, there's the rosy side of it, but then there's the tough part.
Yeah,
and I will say that the one thing that this was my little life lesson, I stick to what you know. I had a rule of I only own homes 30 minutes from my house, just in case I need to get there.
Sure.
And I kept all my investments under 150 grand. I always did investing under 150 grand because you could always sell it to a first-time home buyer. People got greedy, started buying $300,000 and $400,000 houses and flipping them. But man, there's only a certain market for $300,000 and $400,000 homes. So again, that's that risk chart.
That's some good advice. That's some great advice, because you're right. People are trying to get these $1 million homes, but the pickings for those, the buyers for those kind of homes it really gets narrower as the price goes up.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. I was really just so impressed with the presentation that you gave at Keller. I was just really blown out of the water. I'm like, I got to share you with the people that are on my social media page, because I believe that there are people over here that are future title companies, wherever they may be, future inspectors, appraisers, but looking at the whole aspect of real estate and not just the buying and selling part of it. So
yeah, no, I think that our collective industry needs more exposure.
Yes,
and we definitely need more help. Good Lord, I can't hire people. It's tough finding them. So yeah, all the people watching today, like you're looking to get into the industry, happy to talk.
Yes. So at the end of the day, this is just all around owner Aaron Davis Enterprise.
I'm just I
didn't hear you talk about that part of it.
I know. I didn't know what to call all this stuff. Okay. And so I just said, well, AMD is Aaron Michael Davis. So AMD Enterprises.
And you put all of that under.
And I just kind of said, all right, well, I don't know what all this mess is. So it's Florida Agency Network. It's all the title agencies. It's BPM Solutions, Premier Data Services, and all the companies. The conglomerate is AMD Enterprises.
That's awesome. So if you guys want to contact him, and if you are a real estate agent in this area, he is definitely great for just a resource. If you're looking to get involved in investment properties and you need title searches, do you do title searches outside of Florida or just in the state of Florida?
Nationwide.
Okay, nationwide.
We've got access to every state. We are only licensed in the state of Florida. Okay. But through all of our channels and network nationwide.
Okay. So it doesn't matter where you are. If you find a property that you're interested in and you need a title search on it, this guy can help you. You heard him say he did 50 title searches in one night. That's like unheard of.
I don't want to do that again.
Right. That's like unheard of.
Give me 2 days and I'll get it to you.
Yes. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to let this busy man get back to his day. Thank you so much, Aaron. This is really